Welcome back, everyone, to 1 Minute Recess, where we go over Nevada politics served with the strength of a shot of caffeine, a dash of sarcasm, and zero fluff. Why do we call it 1 Minute Recess, Maria?
Well, hi, everyone. We call this 1 Minute Recess because if you just joined us, this is your first episode at the legislature, which happens every 2 years here in Nevada. They go on this thing called 1 Minute Recess. They ask for a 1 minute recess. It is never just 1 minute. It's always more. Sometimes it can be half a day. So 1 minute recess. But during those 1 minute recesses is where all the work gets done. A lot of things get talked about. So perfect name for this. So what are we talking about this week, Annette?
Yeah, let's burn through all of the BS across Nevada and nationally, Maria. We have a lot to go over, a lot that happened over the past few weeks. It's been a busy month. September has been crazy. I can't believe we're already at the end of September, but here we are. So let's talk first. This coming weekend is National Public Lands Day, one of our favorite topics to discuss. We love Nevada public lands. It's something that we worked on for a very long time. Public Lands Day is going to be held September 27th, this coming Saturday, after we post this. And, you know, it's one of those things that was near and dear to my heart, Maria, that we got to work on Gold Butte, Aviquame. I got to work on Basin Range. I think that was before you were with us. Maybe not. But
Right
there were
before.
so many cool things that you and I got to do. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and yes, we are definitely including this because it's near and dear to our hearts, and it's a great subject to talk about with all the madness. So we might just, decided to include this wonderful subject, which is also very important because public lands in Nevada are very important because it makes up about, 80% of land in Nevada is owned by the federal government. Causes a lot of debate. But the great thing about having that is that because of their designation of being public lands is they really get to be protected. And, many people always talk about, especially with this technology filled world, that they want to get out more. If you want to get out more, you need to protect the lands to get out of. And so, as Annette mentioned, we worked on this a lot. We got a chance to protect the different monuments Annette mentioned, but also work on a thing like Nevada Public Lands Day, where you get to celebrate it. And yes, we actually helped make that happen here. We in the legislative session helped make that happen. But many people from many communities, I believe it's students, veterans, get free access to the state parks in Nevada. So take the offer up on that and go out and enjoy, especially in this crazy world. Go outside. And we also got to protect, Aviquame, Gold Butte, and I mentioned Basin and Range, but even at the state level, protect night skies with Kate Marshall a while back. A lot of people don't know Nevada has some of the darkest skies in the world, and that's like a rarity nowadays where there's no light pollution, which is something we learn. You learn a lot of terms in advocacy, but light pollution. And in northern Nevada, you get incredible, unfiltered, dark skies, which got protected, at least at the state level so far.
So I bring this up because, like we talked about, National Public Lands Day is September 27th. There's lots of cool things coming up. But one of the things that also happens, not only are our state parks, so parks that are designated by the state of Nevada as parks, free to the public on National Public Lands Day and Nevada Public Lands Day, which are the same day. The other thing that happens is our national parks are actually free for people. They have free admission. So you can go out to a national park. We do have a national park here in Nevada. That is Great Basin National Park. And all of these different types of protections that we're talking about. A monument, that is a protected area. So a big swath of land that's protected because it has cultural value or it has conservation attributes that should be protected. And then there's national park protections. There's all kinds of different designations you can give to areas in our country that need to be preserved. As you probably have noticed behind me before, this is my husband's desk. We didn't think about it when we set it up. We probably should have. But many of the things behind me, including this Teddy Roosevelt right here on a dinosaur, are because of his love of public lands and national parks. My husband loves Teddy Roosevelt. We actually named our dog after Teddy Roosevelt. We have our Aviquame memorial picture right there for when Aviquame, which is at the southern tip of southern Nevada. Go explore it. It has some of those beautiful Joshua trees in the world. That was designated a national monument. Maria and I worked with a whole campaign of people, one of the proudest achievements, but I still think Gold Butte's my very favorite thing in the world. It will always be near and dear to my heart because not only did we designate the thing, we also had to fight the Bundys to do it. And I am still so proud that that thing got designated as Obama was leaving office in 2016. So there's another reason, though, I wanted to talk about this. So, Maria, this past month, during the month of September, Donald Trump has been quietly, while there's been so much other chaos and horrific things going on, Donald Trump has put out a thing. This was via the AP News. Remember last week we told you to read the AP? Well, AP News put out a article saying that the Trump administration wants to cancel the Biden era rule that made conservation, specifically the term conservation, a use of public land. So
Oh.
previously, the only use on our public lands that, all of the public of the United States owns, the only uses were things like drilling, logging, mining, and grazing. But obviously, we know a lot of people use our public lands to get out on them, explore, like what you were saying, get out and actually use and recreate on our public lands. And so we conserve those lands so that future generations have the opportunity to go out and appreciate them. And then also, protect heritage and protect cultures, protect indigenous culture that has lived there forever. He wants to undo that. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about and let's go through the history of Donald Trump trying to undo public lands in this country, because this is not new for Donald Trump. This actually started during his first administration. Do you want to talk a little bit about Ryan Zinke and the Department of Interior and all that jazz that we had to deal with?
First, when you said his name, I'm remembering that video of him running around in his office with his knife on his. That's from the archives, Jesus, of the of our former employee. But in the first Trump administration, he essentially not only nominated and had Secretary Zinke, who was awful, and would just come to gun shows, I think, here in Nevada. There was a time where he was just here at the show. But they wanted to, specifically, they came in full force to eliminate monuments all across the Southwest. Monuments, by the way, that it wasn't just, hippy-dippy, green-loving people wanted, but people that, like, especially here in the Southwest, you had a lot of hunters and anglers, a lot of people, vets groups that were part of coalitions to protect, like, Grand Escalante. And that was one of the biggest ones. I think it actually ended up getting cut because they
It was
wanted
Bears Ears and Grand
Bears
Staircase
Ears.
Escalante that it went off
Yeah.
during Utah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they went after Gold Butte was one of the ones also on the list, ended up not getting cut because of great activism here in Nevada. But essentially why do they want to do this? Whether it's by the tactics in the first administration or the second one, they want to free up land for different types of development. And this is where you kind of get the question, pose the question to people who are maybe hunters and, all of these people that like to enjoy the land. The moment that gets either cut down or gets taken away, that means that neither you or I get to go on there. It means that if it gets sold off for development, it's done. Nothing we can do about it. And so it seems that, they're trying. I was waiting to see what
too.
they were going to do for public lands because it was like we knew it was going to happen before he came in office, and then he came in office and it was just full steam ahead. And I was waiting to see when he would finally perk up.
I remember you had so when Gold Butte was designated, you had just had your surgery and you literally got up off the couch and went to the designation, sick as a dog.
Mhm.
You had just had this major surgery and you're like, no, I've worked too hard on this. I'm going. Fast
Barely
forward,
walk.
maybe what was it, 4 months, 5 months? It was one of the first things that Trump did in the first Trump administration. I'll
Yeah.
never forget it. I was sitting here, I was in the shower, and it had, like, started, because it was early, because it was DC time, and I'm just sitting there crying, watching him just go through this list. It was, like, 20 something monuments that he was trying to overturn. He ended up really kinda honing in on the Utah ones, but yeah, it was one of those things that just devastated me during the first Trump administration, because so many people had worked so hard to protect those lands, and those lands are treasures for all of us to enjoy. What is very interesting about the way that land is designated, so a lot of people don't know. There's two ways for a national monument, and when people think national monuments, they think, oh, it's a statue. No, this is not
Mhm.
a statue. These are really important pieces of land that need to be protected for future generations. The Antiquities Act is something that Teddy Roosevelt set up when he was president, so that there were different antiquities around the country, things that should be preserved for future generations so that they could be preserved. There is no mechanism in the Antiquities Act that lets you roll things back. Once it's done, it can't be undone. But Donald Trump doesn't believe in laws, and Donald Trump doesn't believe in rules. And so he was searching for a mechanism to try and undo these things for his rancher buddies and his mining buddies and his drilling buddies. And that was what was happening during the first administration. Fast forward, Joe Biden took it a step further and obviously added conservation as one of the things that this land could be designated for. And so this, I'm reading from the AP article now. The rule was a key part of efforts under former President Joe Biden to refocus the Interior Department's Bureau of Land Management. Now, keep in mind, under Joe Biden, it was the first time we've ever had an Indigenous person, Deb Haaland,
Yep.
leading the Department of Interior that governs the land that is Indigenous people's land. And it also governs like Indian affairs. So let's just put that out there. First time
Mhm.
ever we had an Indigenous person doing that. There's a white man in there now, which they oversee about 10% of the land in the US. Adopted last year, it allowed public property to be released for restoration in the same way that oil companies lease land for drilling. So it just set conservation on the same level as these other industries, which I think is important. So obviously industries and agriculture groups were completely opposed to this. And what they're saying is this announcement comes amid a flurry of action since Trump took office aimed at boosting energy production. We're not talking about the solar kind, because he doesn't understand that. Which concentrated in western states, including Alaska, California, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming. Why do they always focus on the West, Maria? Why do they always want our lands?
If only history can tell us. What is there a lot of here? A lot of land, a lot of resources. There's a lot of different mines you can set up. Nevada is one of the states with mining as a gigantic industry, right? You just need to take a drive between Las Vegas and Reno. And I remember all of the drives we've done up to Carson City, and you would always point out like all the stripped mountains, like all the decommissioned mines, halfway decommissioned. And you can see and there's a lot of them. It's because there's a lot of resources out there. We have a lot still to give. But that's the question is, do we move on into newer things that don't require so much destruction of the land, which we have figured out? We have, and it's been in development. Or do we stay with that and go back to what did they call it? She is the moment, Cole. Like, do we stick with all of those old ways of doing things, and the West has always been the victim of that, because there is really not a whole lot of parts in the US that are so resource rich, like under the ground and in your mind. And it's why we're also the victims when a extremist like Donald Trump rolls around. They just want to go in and Drill, baby, drill.
Sorry. Yes. So Nevada's land has always historically belonged to the federal government. It's how we became a state. We did that in essentially a trade. We became a state. They took most of our land. It's why we have to sell off federal land when we need to
With what
build in southern
president?
Nevada. Go ahead.
What you're the one that married a Republican.
Go ahead. What
What
president?
president and what party he is? Abraham Lincoln. So to all the Republicans out there that are like, it's
Oh,
own
you mean when we
80% of our
became
land.
a state? I was like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about? Yeah.
Like what
Yes.
president?
Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. No. Republicans used to support Teddy Roosevelt was a Republican, technically. I mean, I don't really believe that for either one of them, but the modern day Republican Party is very different than the old Republican Party. If you don't believe us, look that up. That's a real thing. They kind of did a switcheroo. Anyways, yes. Sorry. I was lost for a moment. I was like, who are you talking about?
Party of Lincoln.
Yes, sorry. Yes, 1864, Nevada became a state. Look up the history, look up the lore. There's a whole story behind why we're called Battleborn. Anyways, National Public Lands Day is coming up on Saturday, September 27th. There's lots of cool activities, lots of volunteer opportunities around the state. Specifically here in Southern Nevada, do stuff at Red Rock. There's always cool events going on with Red Rock and like restoration down in Aviquame. I know there's stuff at Lake Tahoe, various events up in Northern Nevada. Great Basin always has, like I said, free admission. Our state parks have free admission. Let's go check it out. National Public Lands Day. And while you're at it, there's a comment period on this new rule. So if you want to weigh in on the fact that conservation should remain one of those things that public land should be conserved for, not just drilling and other things like that, comment. Go take some action. Do something. Actually do something for National Public Lands Day. Go make a comment or two.
And I will say this about the Zinke office, because you're mentioning comment period. At our previous employ, we really went in on that campaign for people in Nevada to.
Remember, I had to ship those things out like overnight?
Yeah. We literally shipped comments and uploaded them to PDFs and one by one, and making sure that, we transcribed them just to have a record of what comments got sent in. It was a whole large campaign. And I really do think that that's what did the trick to have Gold Butte be the one eliminated, because I believe we got a whole letter from Zinke's office saying this was a very well organized effort and we're moving on to other ones. We're cutting other ones, not yours. And so who knows if this administration, this version of the Trump administration, and if they will act the same way, but doesn't hurt to try.
All right. Let's move on. Happy National Public Lands Day. Happy Nevada Public Lands Day, everyone, this week. So let's bring it home and talk about Cyberattack land. It seems like things are back on track. It seems like things are, I dare say, moving in the right direction finally. It only took a month. How are things looking, Maria?
I think they are looking good. But not good in the sense that, we mentioned.
It happened.
That one, it happened. Two, that people had to wait, and hopefully people aren't waiting for certain things to get back online, or at least get somewhat back to normal. But I think really not looking good in that it always worries me that our legislature only meets every 2 years to address situations. And what is worrisome is, will this be forgotten between now and whenever? Because it's a critical part of our infrastructure. So much is online. I mean, I just remember Dieter and during COVID, all of the upgrades that we just had to do because we forgot about Dieter and upgrading Dieter and kept it in 1999 systems. And then the pandemic happened and they could not handle that. And so it's like, how for how long and for how often is Nevada gonna, we kept saying this when we worked together, keep kicking the can down the road on certain things like important infrastructure, like, I don't know, our cybersecurity, and just simply, investing smartly in the different things our state needs. Also education. We'll just throw that in there for good measure.
So one of the things, and this is an article from, I think, 2 weeks ago, but it's still relevant because I don't think people grasp the magnitude of like what actually occurred during all of this. Like, yeah, the DMV wasn't online. It was a real pain for a lot of people who needed like renew their vehicles and stuff. That I'm not poo-pooing that. That was real. When they brought it back online, apparently they lost a bunch of like state information. So like if you had like notes on your computer or emails, apparently when they brought everything back online, a bunch of that got deleted. But this particular quote from this article is from the Indy, like 2 weeks ago, from the governor's news conference like 2 weeks ago. This stood out to me, and I wanted to bring it up on this episode since we focused so much on gun violence last week. This is the most horrifying part, I think, of this whole thing that people, I don't think, realize, like, what was offline. The fact that the, quote, background check database is currently down means that we won't be able to determine if a person's criminal history or their ability to purchase a gun or own a gun through the federal guidelines, Lombardo said. It's a matter of going through and dotting the I's and crossing the T's within that particular system to ensure that we have success before we release its availability. I'm confident that we will release that in short order. What?
That's important.
So how are gun stores doing that? How were they doing that during the month of September? What did that? We were just talking about gun violence laws. How were they doing that during the month of September while the state websites were down? I have questions.
It's a very good one.
Were we just Wild Westing this shit? Like, what were we doing?
You get a gun.
Maria, you can't make this shit up. It's like, first of all, we don't invest in our systems. Second of all, we clearly are not maintaining them because this shit happens. And then you're going to sit there and be like, yeah, by the way, the background check database, which, by the way, is a law in the state of Nevada, that it's required that we do this. It is a law, friends.
It's just
NBD.
It's just not working.
Don't worry about it. We're flush with mass shootings. We're flush with casualties. People dying all the time from gun violence, including the people on the right. And we're no big deal. Background check systems down because Cyberattack.
We're going to kick the can down the road. If I were psychic or had a magic 8-ball, that's what we would do.
Everything's fine.
That's the Nevada. That's
Joe Lombardo's got this, guys. Why are you worried? Why are we worried? I just like.
I'm just laughing hysterically.
When you're like, yeah, you laugh because you don't want to cry, right? Like, you're literally. We spent a whole episode last week talking about a fucking tragedy.
Right. And here we are.
What? Moving on. Let's talk about something equally as depressing. Las Vegas economy could feel the pinch from Amazon's Robo-Taxi service. Zoox, apparently is its name, debut with free rides in driverless vehicles raised concerns among those who work for rideshare and taxi services about the financial implication. Now, I actually do want to go back to the Nevada legislature on this one because I don't think we talked about this bill, but there was a bill during the Nevada legislature that our friends at the Teamsters and other local Nevada unions were pushing, which I thought was a really smart bill. It was a bill that essentially said, hey, we can test driverless big rigs, especially here in Nevada. We've got a lot of open space, a lot of open road. However, if you're going to test those big rigs, you need to have a driver in them so that they're safe, right? If you're going to do this in Nevada, within our borders of the state of Nevada, we want to make sure those big rigs are safe and they still have a human in them. Now, there was a lot of debate over this bill. Since then, fun fact, Howard Watts got sideways with the Teamsters over this. Assemblymember Howard Watts got sideways, which is why a lot of the labor unions are very angry with him because he actually ended up killing this bill for the Trucking Association. Fun fact. Pauline knows. So anyways, this has been a conversation, and I think people don't quite grasp the magnitude of what we're talking about here. Not only is it a safety concern because you don't know how we still don't know how this technology of driverless things is going to work. We can barely, friends, we can't get our cybersecurity shit to work at the state. We can't get the databases to work. We couldn't turn on our emails properly. But
We
we're
don't
going to
know
have
who shouldn't have a
driverless.
gun.
We don't know. But we want to have autonomous vehicles driving between Las Vegas and Reno on a 2-lane highway where people die every single day. That seems safe.
Not being able to prioritize issues is a bipartisan trend in the Nevada legislature.
So you've got these driverless big rigs without a human that the trucking association wants, right? And then you got the unions who are like, not only no, is this a safety problem, but hell no, this is also a jobs problem. So that's really where this comes in. And I'm glad this article exists, again, also from the Associated Press. Do your homework, friends. If you didn't take that from last week's episode, do your homework. Go on the AP. It's a great site. They have great information where you can learn a lot that's not biased. So this is the same conversation we're having with these Zoox, Amazon Robo-Taxi services, because essentially what's going to happen is these driverless taxis are going to run amok around Las Vegas, which fine, they do it in San Francisco, I guess, but it takes away jobs. Anytime you automate something, it takes away jobs. We're talking about people, taxi cab drivers who are unionized. We are talking about rideshare drivers. We are talking about our economy, people who pay their bills off of rideshare and taxis, now having to compete with this driverless autonomous thing. I've got questions. I've got a lot of questions.
Many.
What are your thoughts? Go forth.
With what we just mentioned about the Cyberattack, also the last episode, just the state of the world and society in the US, I don't know if this is the time to just be having, in addition to all of that and the powder keg that we live in, just robot cars. It sounds like a sci-fi horror movie.
I just don't know how. Well, number one, I don't know how we think in this economy, because the economy is not getting better, it's getting worse. Getting rid of jobs is a good idea. Like, I just don't think that's a good idea. And again, I guess we had this, well, I don't guess, we did have this conversation when ride shares came online, right? When Lyft and Uber and all of that came online. We had the exact same conversation because it was taking away jobs from taxi cab drivers who worked for taxi cab services, who have been an institution in places like Las Vegas or New York and other places like that. We've kind of figured it out, but there's still taxi cab drivers that are suffering. Now what this is going to do is it's going to decimate a whole industry using robot technology, essentially. I don't know how. Listen, driving here is already bad enough. Feel about this whole thing. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, no, and I think
I don't trust Tesla. Why am I going to trust Amazon?
No, and it's interesting because if you think there's also this idea or this thought of all of this will be fine, all of this will work itself out, and we don't need people. What about if, I don't know, if there's like a country or something, an entity that hates us and wants to, I don't know, hack all those cars and cause havoc? Could be possible, right? Anything that is online, anything like that is hackable. So is that something that is going to be thought out? I know that sometimes we don't think through things in the legislature for various reasons.
I just Googled Nevada news, okay? Because I was just curious. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Next topic. What are we going to talk about?
Yeah.
We're going to go back to the topic we were just previously talking about for 2 seconds, because I just got to read you this headline because this is the first thing that came up. Nevada Cannabis Compliance Board issues a warning about certain cannabis products, the aftermath of a cyberattack affecting state websites. Like, what? So, hang on. Tesla receiving approval to its test autonomous robot taxis. Like, that headline just all combined, I was like, what in the hell is happening?
Wild West.
We can't. The Nevada Cannabis Compliance Board issuing a warning about our cannabis. Let's see what this is. Hang on. Should avoid or being cautious of. What in the so now the labelings are on. I don't fucking know what is happening in this state. We can't label our cannabis correctly. We're gonna let robo-taxis on our streets, and we can't
Mhm.
cyber-tack apparently and do background checks. Chaos.
Everything. Everything is chaos. Yeah.
I
Sounds about right. That's very
Mhm.
2025.
I was like, I gotta hang on. I gotta go down this rabbit hole for a second because this Google search was maddening.
Yeah.
God. All right. What else is going on, Maria? What do we know?
What do we know?
Yeah. What else do we know?
Let's see. What else do we know? Let me just
I love how we're both just like, what do we know?
wait. Yeah. Sex offender database is still offline.
Shut the hell up.
Yeah, so that's a thing. So if you're like wondering if your weird neighbor is a sex offender, at least by the reading of this, you can't because
Mm,
it's still down. Jesus.
I just don't. I don't know. Anyways, let's talk about Nevada's a nightmare. The whole world is a nightmare. The country's a nightmare. This is very clear. Let's talk about something fun before we leave. There are a lot of things that we love to do in the fall in Nevada because there's a lot of festivals and stuff coming up. A lot of stuff going on in October since we're October now is literally right around the corner. What are some of your favorite fairs and festivals that are coming up in Nevada in the
Uh
month of October?
yeah, aka the month you can go outside.
Yeah, right?
Gilcrease is something just between now and when you can't be outside is a great place to go. Like the beginning
Yeah.
of the fall. It's just wonderful to go and go even if you don't want to pick anything, just people watching. It's fantastic. It's great. Kind of puts you in a good mood. Also, because we talked about our public lands, going to some of the parks. And, especially I live by Lone Mountain, so I can go to Lone Mountain Park and take my dog out hiking now that it's not a trillion degrees out and have a nice view of the city. I love doing that. My dog gets tired easily, so maybe he doesn't. But that's super fun. One of the things, can't do it anymore, but used to love going to Bonnie Springs, which aka also slash Red Rock. So Red Rock too is also one of the awesome places I like to go. But yeah, that's what do you like to do in October?
I like to do so much stuff. So Art in the Park in Boulder City is one of my very favorite things ever.
Yes.
It happens every October, usually the first week in October. But Boulder City also has something cool coming up on September 27th. We were talking about that earlier in the show. Astronomy in the Park. It's going to be in Boulder City. It's being hosted by the Las Vegas Astronomical Society, Commissioner Gibson, free to the public, and it'll be on that evening starting at 6:30. So that'll be super fun. So that's something coming up this weekend that is fun to do. And I think the next weekend is Art in the Park. Um, Obviously the Asian Lantern Festival is coming up on October 11th. We also have the Ren Fair coming up that weekend. We have
Red.
Pride, the Pride Parade, the Pride Festival in Vegas because again, it's too hot to have it in June when normally people celebrate Pride, so we celebrate in October here so people don't die. And we've got all kinds of fun stuff coming up in October. And like you said, Gilcrease is always one of my very favorite things going out. I know there's lots of festivals and fairs happening up in Reno. We just had the Asian Moon Festival up in Reno. I believe that there's some other stuff going on in Sparks. So yeah, get outside. There's lots of stuff going on in the fall because finally you can do things outside. What's some of your favorite
Woo!
events? Put it in the chat. We want to know.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know when it is, what it's about, and what you like about it.
Yeah. All right, what's going on in your life? We haven't really talked much about things we're doing.
Non
'Cause,
political things.
politics have been, like, crazy the past few weeks and all consuming and databases not working and cannabis not being labeled correctly and weird autonomous
Little
vehicles and
things.
shit like that, yeah. What's going on in your life?
Little things. Well, one of the things that I'm currently into is I am this close to finally finishing a Stephen King novel. Um,
Oh.
Never Flinch, which you always say you don't like movies or TV shows or books that are close to work. This would be because there's a loudmouth activist that is one of the main characters in the story, and she's going around a tour, a speaking tour, and that's how she gets described in the book, that she's just a loudmouth, progressive that people say should run for office. And anyway, it's fascinating.
I like how you drink. I like how you drink your water right then.
I drank it because I have been suspecting who's going to get killed. There's a possibility that multiple people are going to get
Mm.
killed by like two different people. It's super interesting, but what's interesting? It actually goes back to what we were talking about last week. It's two white guys. The other one is kind of a different, and it's, if you are reading Never Flinch or want to, fast forward because I'll spoil one of them. So they're both born white men. One of them lost his twin, and this one is like the Christian, like anti-abortion, and this, loudmouth talks a lot about abortion. You love abortions. And this other one, this Christian conservative, lost his twin, who was a girl, and ever since she died, he kind of took on her personality and is this interesting duality where I would believe they would be a they, but they don't say that. But they go through being their person they were born as, and then they completely switch and are their sister. And people say, well, no, you're just dressing up as your sister. And they're like, no, I am Chrissy. Like, talk to me as Chrissy. I am a woman. I'm Chrissy. And so it's really interesting that not only are we talking about, sort of this progressive activist, someone that would be called woke, someone that would be called a radical liberal, and like, two guys that are mad at things, and their way of responding to it is by one of them is already killing people, and then the other one is getting ready to probably do something to this speaker. And so
So
it's like,
you're reading about real life?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
you
yeah,
and my husband. Okay. All right.
yeah. It's a really, really good book. It's fantastic. It really talks a lot about the state of this country. But since that was kind of real life and what we talk about already, one of the interesting, like, weird holes that I went in, and if people know this person, the weird multiverse it created. There's this gamer, because I like to play video games, and he started playing this like water park simulator, and now all of a sudden it's turned into this whole multiverse. Named it the Goob Lagoon. His name is Queso. He reminds me of your husband. He's like the sweetest white guy. And all of a sudden people have created websites for it. They've created whole ass Yelp reviews for it. There is a commercial for it. And there's also this new multiverse of people going on like Instagram Reels and TikTok and placing complaints. Like, when you're like, I went to this place and they did this to me. And so there's a probability that there's people watching and going, this place is terrible, but it's literally just a guy playing a video game. And it is the most fascinating thing that I've seen in a while, because it's just a guy playing a video game and thousands of people are just playing along. Someone rented, those trucks that we used to rent for GOTV, which is Get Out the
Mm-hmm.
Vote for people that don't know. They drive around hours and you can put whatever you want on them. It's an advertisement. People have bought out trucks in Hollywood to advertise that fake water park. So there's people in Hollywood thinking there's a water park out there called the
Sounds
Goob
like
Lagoon.
the documentary on Netflix about the invasion of Area 51. Remember that a few years ago?
Yeah.
What they were just like, it was like fake online nonsense, and then they all took it seriously and actually tried to come. Anyways,
Yeah. But it's the most hilarious thing. And it has helped me disconnect because it is completely fun and hilarious and humoristic. What about you?
well, I just came back from Washington, D.C., so I didn't go to jail. That's a plus. I don't know how, but I didn't.
And you came back.
Came back. Not only did I go to DC, I went to Reno too, and also didn't go to jail in Reno. So 2-for-1 special, friends, and made it back. So here we are doing a podcast, and I'm out of jail. Or not, I never went. I never went. Let's say that. I never went.
Mhm.
What else happened? Salt Lake City housewives are back, obviously. big fan. Big fan. They came back last week, so I was very stoked about that because it's about time. Hearing still rumors New Jersey may come back. Very stoked about that. And my whole life is being consumed by planning the Asian Lantern Festival, as I talked about earlier. So that's coming up on October 11th. Everybody get their tickets. They're on sale now because that is all consuming for my life. And then, getting ready for BravoCon after that in November. But can I just vent for 10 seconds? I am very concerned. Very, very, very concerned because these legislators keep talking about the fact that they want to have a special session the week of November 10th. Well, that's Veterans Day, friends. I doubt you're going to start a special session on Veterans Day. There are 4 days in that week that you can have a special session. One of those days is Friday, and I have tickets for BravoCon on Friday, the convention for people who are Bravo fanatics like me and Maria and other friends we have who watch this. I will be back here for BravoCon. I will not be at special set. I've already told all my clients, I was like, I hope you know, I will not be there on that Friday. I will be back in Las Vegas for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Do not think I'm going to be at special session. I do enough for this freaking state. I'm not going to be in Carson City during BravoCon. I refuse. I spent too much money on those tickets. No.
Yeah, those are expensive. And you get to be with Andy Cohen for a day.
For 3 days, I get to be with Andy Cohen. I'm sorry, Andy Cohen, the Nevada legislature. Andy Cohen always wins.
Andy Cohen.
He always wins in that conversation. So,
yeah.
Speaking of like things I do to escape this putrid reality that we live in, that I'm going to BravoCon because I'm not going to session.
Yeah, exactly. No, fully support that. That is the right call.
Yeah. So anyways, and then Wednesday, she takes up a lot of my time. My little sass.
Cute little Wednesday.
Anyways, yeah, she's actually being good this week. Last week. Terrorist. Absolute terrorist.
Eating different things in your office.
Eating slippers, eating books, eating her father's work papers, random things I had to get up for in the middle of the show. Things like that. Yeah, she's just sleeping today. So, all right. Well, it's been another fun episode. Mazel.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good that we did. Last week's was a little heavy. It's good that we went
lightened it up this week. Yeah.
Lighter.
It was real heavy. It's been real heavy. The month of September was real heavy, let's be honest. I'm looking forward to October, if for no other reason, Halloween, fall.
Yeah. So
Pumpkin
other than knowing
lattes.
that important databases have been offline for a long time, we haven't been able to take care of. We kept it light this week, but next week we'll be back with the world and what's happening in it.
Something. I don't know.
Yeah.
God. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for sticking around for a lighter episode. Reminder, go out and enjoy your public lands this weekend. There's a lot going on around Nevada. Get out and enjoy your national parks. It's all going to be free. You should go and visit your public lands. If nothing else, go and volunteer. That's a great way to give back. That's a great way, honestly, to fight back during the Trump administration. Volunteer, make a comment on those things, make your voice heard. That is the best way to fight back against all of this nonsense. So until next week, take us out.
We'll put a link because I just remembered an incredible organization. There's many, that work, but there's one that also works with all of the different ones, like all of the Sierra clubs that you can think of. But Friends of Nevada Wilderness is probably like, if you want a one-stop shop for, and that said volunteering, they actually go out and help take care of these
trails, do all kinds of cool
and
stuff.
Restore trails. Great. And so, everything is terrible. I might totally sign up. Go outside and leave your phone, leave the news, restore some trails. There was someone actually that said, with a lot of information, with a lot of things that might be false, the only truth is nature. And so go out and enjoy it. We have a lot of it. And Friends of Nevada Wilderness is one that is not just advocating for it, but they're actually taking care of it in real time. So it's your one-stop shop to learn about them and volunteer and go. And you can also be linked up to lots of other organizations. So we'll drop the link in the notes and volunteer with them because they do great. So
and
volunteer.
We'll drop the link in the chat for that comment period too, because we want to make sure you weigh in and let the Trump administration know that they should not change the policies that the Biden administration put in. So we'll make sure that's in the chat too. All
Yep.
right, friends. Well, remember, like, subscribe, follow. That's the best way to support our podcast. Make sure you like 1 Minute Recess on all of our social media platforms, all the place you get your podcasts. Make sure you share this with your friends and family. Share it on your social media. We need more people watching. Get folks involved. And if you have ideas for upcoming shows, we want to hear from you. If you have opinions, like we said last week, we want to hear your opinions. That's the whole point of doing this, is good public discourse. So put your comments in the chat, like, share, and take us out, Maria.
See you next week. Read a book, go out in nature. That'll be the closing. Read a book,
Touch some
go out in nature.
grass.
Yeah.
Go
and we'll
touch
see you
some
next week.
grass. Have a good week, everyone. Be safe.